Hello, so Wednesday here, and here's our timetable for the day. So we've got reading to start us off, good 20-minute session on that, and that could be with our bingo sheet or with a book that we've got at home. So for our writing today, we're going to be planning out our letter that we'll be writing tomorrow for somebody that we've missed during lockdown. We've not been able to see as many people as we usually do. This could be a friend, a relative, or a teacher, and we'll look at planning that out in later on in the video, maybe with a mind map, or a different way if you'd prefer, maybe a notes page. For maths, we're going to be looking at converting pounds and pence, so a bit of money work there, and I've got you some activities to do with that, or if you'd like to set your own tasks as well for that one. It's a good open-ended one that we can have a go at using money as a stimulus there. In the afternoon, I'd like you to continue with Mr. Emsley's challenge and some of those VE Day displays. Get them going, get them up and ready to celebrate on Friday with. So we need to plan out what we're going to put in our letter tomorrow to the person that we're missing. So first we need to think about that person, who it is, and what kind of information we would give them. So that could be a friend that you are missing, a friend from school or a friend from somewhere else that you've not been able to see over the last few weeks. It could be a family member, if you've not been able to see them, or a teacher from our school. You need to plan out each section of this writing. So this letter will be very easy to paragraph because we'll be introducing ourselves, which will be very short because you know this person very well, and then talking about the things that have happened over the last few weeks. So planning week by week is a really easy way to group that information and to create the paragraphs tomorrow when you write this letter. So I've started this with a mind map, which you'll see on the page. I've started with that bubble in the middle that tells me it's my letter. I might even put into that bubble who this is for to remind me and help me focus what I'm giving them. And then I've gone round with my stems coming off each week. I've gone for red for week 1, gone for long walks and family games that we started doing then. And of course you'll be developing this much further than my example and getting lots and lots of things on there. You'll have to think back to that first week and the things you did. I don't just want to see letters where you sat and played computer games, because I'm sure you did a lot more than that. Week 2, I'd like to see what you did in week 2. I've put built a desk, because we ended up building a desk that we needed in a room. I also created the YouTube channel that you'll be watching this on. So week 2 we got a few more extra bits in there, and of course again yours will have a lot more on there, the things that you've been up to. Could be the lessons, could be the things that you've done on your exercise time, or any other bits and pieces that you'd like to include. Now I've not done every single week there. You will have to create stems or sections in your planning for each of the different weeks that we've been off, but I have gone and created 2 other important sections, which are feelings that we'd have at this time, and I've put unsure but also determined in my feelings, and you'll have to explore the vocab there that you can use and think of some really good adjectives to describe those feelings. And I've put in the dark green there, I've put things that I am missing. So I put Banksy class down as something I'm missing, and I've also put takeaway coffee. Now I'm pretty sure one of those things you will not have on yours, but perhaps the other one is a good one for you to start off with and then add other bits as well. So this plan is very open-ended. It needs to include as much detail as you can think of so that your letter writing tomorrow comes naturally and the plan forms that content that you're going to write. So in maths we're going to look at converting pounds into pence, and we're going to have to be very precise with our multiplications here. Multiplying by 10 and multiplying by 100. And dividing by 10 and 100 as well are key to this. They're very easy to do, but they're also very confusing at times as well. So we're going to take this step by step. I'm going to show you quickly how I would approach this and how we would approach this in Banksy class, and hopefully that helps you. And the challenges that I've got at the end, hopefully you can take them away and have a practice of these skills. Okay, so let's look at this conversion rate then. So we know that £1 is the same as 100 pence. That tells us that we're going to be converting either with a ratio of 100 to 1. It's either going to be timesing by 100 or dividing by 100. Now we know that to go from pounds to pence, there's a lot more pence than there is pounds. So that's where we're going to multiply. When we go from pounds to pence, we're going to times by 100. We know that there's 100 pence and that makes one pound, so we know we're going to divide by 100 to go from pence to pounds. The value is going to get smaller, but we know that pounds are worth more. So let's start with some of these problems. So I've got £1.20 and I'd like to turn it into pence. What I've done is I've drawn a place value grid. I've got hundreds, I've got tens, and I've got ones. I've then got a decimal point, and then a decimal point separates the whole numbers from the parts, the fractions, the decimals. The first digit in a decimal number is tenths, and the second digit being hundredths. So I've got £1 and 2 tenths, which is the 20 pence in money. I need to multiply by 100. Changing pounds into pence, I need to multiply by 100. And this is where place value really helps us out. When things get 100 times greater, 100 times bigger, as with the multiplication yesterday, they move position. They move 2 places to the left to show that they're getting 100 times greater. So this first digit, the 1, is going to move 2 spaces to the left. So it starts here in the ones, it's going to move 1, 2 spaces, and we're going to end up with that digit in the hundreds. Now the other digits are going to follow. The 2 tenths is going to move 2 spaces, 2 columns. It cannot go in this column, which is filled by a decimal point. So its first move is going to be into the ones, and then its second move is going to be into the tens. So the 2 ends up in the tens. The 0 that's in the hundredths here is going to follow, moving 1 space, moving 2 spaces to give us this answer here. Now the answer is 120. If we turn £1.20 into pence, we have 120 pence. 120 pence. We don't need a decimal point in our answer because there is no values below that decimal point. Moving on to the second problem that I've got for you here. This time it's pence into pounds and pence. I have got 362 pence. And I'd like to change it into an answer that is pounds and pence. Rather than time. So apologies, that last video just seemed to end a bit abruptly. I'm not sure what happened there. So this is what happens with our multiplying by 100 when we're changing from pounds into pounds and pence. The first thing we need to do is take the 2 digit and we need to move it from the ones 2 spaces down so it travels across the decimal point into the tenths and ends up in the hundredths, and the arrow will show you where it travelled from and ends. Then we need to continue with each digit, and our next digit is the 6 in the tens. The 6 tens moves 2 spaces, moves into the ones, across the decimal place and into the tenths where it ends up. And finally the 3 hundredths in the hundreds column, move 2 spaces, move down into the tens and end up in the ones for our answer, moving those 2 spaces just like everything else that we divided by 100. And that gives us our total of £3.62 for that pounds and pence answer. Remember, we're dividing by 100 to go from pounds to pounds and pence. So these are the type of problems that I've given you. There's a grid, and I would like pounds and pence, words, and some coins that you could draw to make that value that we've stated in this grid. So this one is £1.75. If we multiply that by 100, we know that we'll have 175 pence, which we could write in words. We could then build that in different ways using different coins. For example, we could use a pound coin, 50 pence coin, 20 pence and a 5 pence coin to build this, and I could just draw them in that final box there. Feel free to use these problems that I've created and the grids that I've created. You could copy them down into your books, or you could make your own here to experiment with these skills. We are timesing and we are dividing by 100 here, so please remember place value and moving those digits the 2 spaces left or right depending on what we are doing, if we're going from pounds to pence or pence to pounds. So in the afternoon, still continuing with Mr. Ems's challenge, that display, that model that we're going to use to promote the VE Day and the celebrations. I would like to see some of these creations and see them how we're promoting this bank holiday that we've been given, and see how it is going to be celebrated in your neighbourhood there. Some house points for our best efforts here, I think we need to award, but I will need to see them if I'm going to award those house points.